Inside the Birds is back. What's up? It's Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, and probably a dreary Monday for those who are listening on Monday. Because I got to tell you, Adam, before we even start talking about the game itself, I said on Sirius doing the updates for them that I've not seen a crowd, a Lincoln Financial Field crowd, so jacked up for a week 2 regular season game against a non-division opponent than I saw in the hours before the Eagles 49ers game. I mean, the crowd was great. They represented well. It had a little bit of a whiteout feel, like a Penn State thing, because I guess a lot of people wore the white Eagles jerseys. And for the first 10 minutes, as the Eagles looked pretty decent, first 8 to 10 minutes, the place was rocking. So I can only imagine the disappointment a lot of people are feeling today. But the intensity was there. I suspect that's because last year at this time, nobody could go to football games in this area. So, it was great for them to be back at a season opener. The team was coming off a big win against Atlanta. So that was kind of deflating because in the third quarter, that place was a moratorium. I mean, you couldn't hear it. Is that the right word? Moratorium? Morgue. What? Yeah, moratorium. What am I? You would think I was a communications or major or anything. Yeah, a morgue. It was just completely – the Eagles sucked the life out of their own crowd, unfortunately, and that's too bad because that was as bonkers of a crowd as I had ever seen for a non-division game, week 2.
Yeah, I mean, last year before they shut everything down, weren't there limited fans at some of the games, or was it the whole season? I don't.
Yeah,
recall.
Later in the year there were some games where there were fans at. It was limited. It just wasn't limited, the same. Right. And then I think it got didn't it get like cut down as they got deeper into the season? They had to go back.
Yeah, I think they shut it down. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there were very few fans, as we know, around the country. But anyway, last season. But back to this season, it's so great to see fans. It really is.
It is.
It was. We'll get to the breakdown, but it had so many subplots in this game. It was definitely a strange game. When we break down the offense, folks, some of the things that happened I've not really seen before. Good, mostly not good. But hey, that's football, man. You never know what you're going to get on a Sunday with your Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, that is true indeed. Let me get through a few things first. Yeah. We are going to be on The Fanatic tonight, Monday night, 6 to 8 p.m., as we have been for the last few weeks. So we'll be able to take your calls, talk to you. When I worked at The Fanatic, Adam, I remember Doug Peterson's first year. You remember 3-0 was such a great start, and then they lose to Detroit, then they lost to Dallas. There were some really tough losses in there, and I remember I was like the therapy doctor because I was doing late night, and I would say, give me a call. Let me ease your pains. Let's talk about this because it's not as bad as maybe
I didn't know that.
You think it is. Yeah, I enjoyed that because I like to be level-headed. Awesome. Not everybody agrees with my takes all the time, but I do think that I'm fairly level-headed as well. Sure. And people would call me up and I would try to be there, supply the therapy for them. And we might do that on this podcast today a little bit, but we can certainly do that Monday night, 6 to 8 p.m. When we do Inside the Birds Radio on 97.5 The Fanatic. Looking forward to that show. Secondly, of course, Q&A will be out on Thursday of this week as we've moved them around a little bit. And
it's permanent, right? Real quick.
Well, I think so. You just never know this day and age.
Okay. I got you. But yeah, so yeah, I'm sure they'll have a lot. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm sure they'll have a lot to say about it. Yeah, we all are. This is what a strange game. But anyway.
Yeah, and then of course, we want to apologize on behalf of all of ITB pregame live for some of the major technical difficulties that we had Sunday prior to the game that made it just impossible for us to do a pregame show. We are going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Obviously we didn't expect it to happen, didn't know, but whatever it's going to take to get things right, we will make sure they get right. You have our word, and so we don't lose faith in us. We apologize to everybody who tuned in, and I'm sorry we couldn't fulfill that responsibility, but we'll be back better than ever. I promise you that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate your support from the bottom of our hearts. Yeah, it was a issue that had nothing to do with us. It was just a technical issue that should never have happened, and it was frustrating because we had, and we'll discuss some of the notes as the show goes along. We had some really good nuggets. Cosell did, Jason Avant did, myself, Geoff. We all had information, and some of it actually wound up happening. We got great sourcing from a 49ers person who gave us some stuff to look at from the game. Some of it wound up happening. It was just really, it was disappointing. Yeah, we were frustrated, but it was out of our hands. But as Geoff said, we vow to never let it happen again, and we really appreciate your support.
Yeah, we did get a lot of nice comments from people saying, stuff happens, and they know what we had the best intentions. So
and believe us,
next week.
Oh
yeah, God!
I was just going to say we were beyond frustrated. You didn't want to see us anyway. You don't want to see our faces. You
didn't. I was not level-headed in those moments. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, we're human. It sucks it always sucks, folks. Whenever something goes on in your life that doesn't go your way, and it's out of your control, and you're so helpless. You want to do something like, what can I do? What can I do? And you can't do anything about it because it's not something in your purveyance. And I was like, geez, come on.
Yes, when it's out of your control, it becomes even more difficult.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's absolutely true.
Enough of that. Sorry, folks, and we'll do better.
But I do have it evidenced on both my phone and in the script that was written that you, Jason, and Greg Cosell all picked the Eagles to win.
Yes, they did.
So next Sunday when we do our pregame show and the graphic goes up about our win-loss, I'm 1-1, just like the rest of you guys.
I picked the under though. You picked the over once again.
Well, we don't do under-over. We just simply do wins and losses.
I got it wrong. No, I got it wrong, man. I thought the Eagles would have, based on, before we get into the whole game, my feeling was that I knew Friday Josh Norman was going to start. That was going to be one of my scoops I put in our show today, that he took the ones on Friday's practice because they knew Emmanuel Mosley was not going to play. His knee was not right. He did very little. But I thought they'd get Josh Norman. I thought they were no problem. The guy hasn't played good football in 3 years. You can only go by matchups so much and just say, okay, who's going to win the coaching battle? I'm learning more as we go along here about coaching. Not that we didn't know about coaching, but about how coaching could just take over a game. Like in week one, the Eagles coaching staff absolutely dominated the Falcons coaching staff. They won the battle of the coaches. This past Sunday, less than 24 hours ago, D'Amico Ryans outcoached Nick Sirianni. That's the way I would set this up. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. D'Amico Ryans did a great job. I mean, he is, 49ers told me, he's brilliant. They kind of knew this in their OTAs. The way it works with coaches is when you talk to coaches, they know who the pretenders are and they know who the contenders are at coaching. They know the guys are special. D'Amico Ryans is a special coach. He's the way they describe it is you kind of know when you're around special people when they have a certain level of intelligence. If they're 300 coaches in the National Football League, he's in like the upper quarter of cerebral part of the game and seeing a game differently. And he just took it to Nick Sirianni. You can say whatever you want, but D'Amico outcoached Sirianni because it was his defense versus Nick's offense. And Nick, who was brilliant in week one, did not have a good week two.
Yeah, no, I have no issue with that statement whatsoever. And I know we've both spoke to a few people, in the aftermath of the game, and those people that we spoke to seem to have the same questions that we did. So it's always good to be on the same page as wondering what went on. We'll get into that a little bit. We'll actually get into that a lot. We'll break this down in 1 second. First, look, the Eagles did not win, but you can still win. Adam and I are winning, even though we retired from the field long time ago. We win because we use Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun. It's the longest running penny auction website and app around. And if that sounds too good to be true, well, let me tell you, we've seen a car go for $900, a brand new TV for less than $2. Just lots of wonderful things that everybody would love to have. The holidays are around the corner. They'll be here before you know it. So don't be a loser. Don't pay full retail price for things you want and just get on Deal Dash. Go to DealDash.com or download the app. And when you register, enter the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. All right, Adam, let's start off just with a few notes and nuggets before we break down the offense and the defense. First, obviously the Eagles are at 1-1 and kind of Jekyll and Hyde, 32 points, then 11 points. I'm curious as to what your takeaway is from the game. What was you kind of gave it there in that Nick Sirianni got outcoached by D'Amico Ryans, but were you surprised that after the way they moved the ball so easily? Were you surprised by the game plan itself?
Oh, yeah. Good setup. Yes. As one source said, this person was trying to figure out what Sirianni was doing on offense. I think he kind of outcoached himself. He was trying to do too much. I know what Sirianni meant when he was asked during his press conference that, well, he admitted, hey, this play didn't work. This is not a good call. Well, if it would have worked, it would have been a good call. That's what coaches always say. Always laugh at that. It's somewhat true. But I thought he overdid it. The play calling inside the 5 was, it's just, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. He was just doing too much eye candy, too much, just run up. I don't know. I just thought he tried to do too much. That was a little bit disappointing, but I just figure that if they could protect, and they protected okay, certainly was not the game against Atlanta. Mm-hmm. I mean, we could give D'Amico Ryans, I've given him a lot of credit on coverages. We'll learn more when we hear about what the coaching tape looked like. We got just a little bit early word, but not a lot. But the thing that I just don't understand is, and I've never seen this in 21 years of covering the National Football League, mm-hmm. Maybe there were some inside throws. Maybe there were some throws over the middle. I just didn't see them. I've never seen a game called like this. And then the other thing is, some other person pointed out to me, he's a lot smarter than I am. He goes, Philly ran mostly inside zone, very little outside zone. Didn't understand that. Just the play calling, Geoff, was, I don't know what I don't know. I thought that Sirianni got outcoached.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. I was surprised the same way. It almost seemed like the entire game plan was inverted from the week before, where they were going to run only in between the tackles and that they were going to throw outside the numbers. They threw outside the numbers well, right? Rager almost had a touchdown. He stepped out of bounds. Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins had a 91-yarder.
That was awesome.
There were almost no targets to the tight ends. So my big takeaway, kind of parlaying from that, is I really need to see the tape. There are some questions that I have about schematics going on in that game that I cannot fully understand or explain until either we talk to our tape review sources or I even see it myself, because I'm having a hard time also figuring out if Jalen Hurts left throws on the field or if that offensive line just didn't protect him well enough, because it did seem at times in the second half that pass rush was up on him quickly. And that, I know Landon Dickerson was in there and Brandon Brooks is out. We'll get into that in a second, but this offensive line should have been better against the defensive line that is good, but had a lot of banged up guys. Kinlaw was banged up. Armstead was banged up. D Ford was banged up. And Bosa's not even playing the full slate of snaps as he comes back from an ACL. He's kind of rotates in and out there, and he had 2 sacks. So I got to figure out what went on there.
Yeah. The only thing that I would add is that this is a crazy stat. Again, there's so many things that happened in this game, and I understand they did only have the ball 25 minutes. Not one player had more than 2 receptions in the game. Like, how the hell does that happen?
That is crazy.
Is their defense that good? Oh, I was also told early word is Niners played a lot of 2-shell coverage, too deep. They were not giving up the big play. Of course they did. That throw by Hurts was beautiful in the bomb, the 91-yarder. But here's the most damning stat. They only had 99 yards passing other than that 91-yard bomb. Think about that.
I'll tell you this.
Think about that.
I think I did say this to you after the game when we chatted. I'm like, I can't remember ever seeing a 91-yard play on a drive in which the drive ended in 0 points.
How does that happen?
Unless there was a turnover, like on not just on downs, but like an immediate fumble or a interception. But imagine getting 91 yards on one play and scoring 0 points on that drive.
If you're watching on YouTube, folks, my hands are in my eyes. I just cannot imagine.
A fumble or an interception.
I'm sorry?
I said without a fumble or an interception.
Right, to end it. Right. I could not imagine the frustration the coaches must have had on the Sirianni and Patullo and the other guys who are assisting, because this is, I give the Niners credit. Hey, they outplay the Eagles. Okay, they really did. The D line was terrific in the first quarter. We'll get to that. Hargrave got off the great start, and there were some good things. There's some positive things. Right. This defense is a little bit better than I expected. Let's put it that way. We could say all we want about Jimmy Garoppolo, but that was a positive. But my takeaway is that Sirianni needs to do a better job of play calling, and fans deserve better. As you said earlier, great crowd. Give the fans credit, and obviously they're frenzied. They hadn't been there for a while. Yep. Heck, I was talking to our friend Jason Jones, who works with Ron Jaworski. Coffee told me over the weekend that Princeton had not played a game in nearly 2 years. I mean, that's crazy.
What?
Yeah, Princeton. Yeah, I guess did Princeton not play? Either Lehigh or Princeton had not played in nearly 2 years. I guess they didn't play last season. Yeah.
Well, I knew that. I just didn't know what happened the season before.
Yeah, and something might. I don't know. I don't know what this. Maybe it was like 21 months or something.
Right.
But nevertheless, I could just understand being a fan and how appreciative. And then you said, like you noticed. Now, what time did you get? Like how early? Okay, so our pregame should have happened, didn't happen. So you were able to get to the game a little bit. I mean, earlier than you would have. What time did you get in there?
I got there. Man, there was a lot of traffic, as you would expect. So I got there right around noon.
Okay, not too bad.
But I was in the vicinity by about 11:30. So there was just a lot of cars, a lot of people. It was
Did you park in?
Impressive. Did
you park in the usual media lot?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so before kickoff, were people like, could you in the press box? There's sometimes when it's so loud, some games you can't really hear it very much. Could you hear it, like the sound when leading up and everything?
I could.
Wow.
I could feel a little shaking, like when
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not structurally sound. It's just when there's that many people there, sometimes you feel the shake, and I could feel the shit. That's when the crowd is fired up, when you feel that shake. And there was a shake going on. So that was a great job by Eagles fans. I mean, they really represented well. And it's too bad they after the first quarter it started to get pretty ugly there for them. So I want a little like a takeaway too that I have that I want to get out of the way now, because no one's going to care. No one cares when you talk about the opponent. I know that. But I give the 49ers a ton of credit. Now, I know a lot of the Eagles, we'll talk about it, there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds, but remember, this team went on the road week 1, almost blew the game in the fourth quarter, went on the road, then had to go to West Virginia for the week to stay instead of going back home, right? Then while they were out in West Virginia, some of their injury news from last Sunday, it got worse. I mean, they lost guys for a while. They were pretty banged up. They had to freaking play, like you just said, Josh Norman, who really shouldn't be starting in there. Right. And they signed Drake Kirkpatrick. I said Norman and Kirkpatrick would be a great cornerback tandem if this were 2014, not 2021. Right.
That was awesome. Yeah. I love that line.
So for them to come in and I thought the first 6-7 minutes of the game were just so I mean, the pass rush was up on Jimmy Garoppolo. You saw, and with Trey Lance standing on the sideline, for Jimmy to hang in there, make some throws, get better, and for that offensive defense to kind of progressively get stronger as they went on. This was 2 weeks for the 49ers. Those were some gut check wins for them. So props to them, because a lot of worse teams would have succumbed earlier, I think.
Very well coached. As I said, D'Amico Ryans was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Did a great. He's and last week, my 49ers guy told me that, he goes, the reason why they gave up the lead is they started taking players out late third, early fourth, some defensive starters, because they were up 38-10. And all of a sudden they give up an onside kick. They turn the ball over. And they had to put the starters back in. But so people were like, "Oh gosh, they choked." No, it's not really what happened. It's so hard, because in this game, as a head coach, you have to make a decision. You're up by 28. The Lions are terrible. You're housing this team, and you want to start rolling the backups to preserve your starters, because they don't need to be in it. And, it's kind of like in the NBA when you're up by 25 with 7 minutes left, and then Brett Brown would always do this. He'd start pulling the starters, and the other team would come back. He'd have to put the starters back in.
Yeah, to see that all the time. Yeah. No doubt about it. So let's get to these injuries, because they're pretty bad. I mean, they have the potential to be pretty bad. Obviously, Brandon Graham, he's going to be be done for the year. He's got the Achilles. That's really unfortunate, and it puts the Eagles in a rough situation. I mean, obviously, you hope the best for Brandon. It's terrible to see. He's like Mr. Eagle. It sucks. But it also takes away a little bit of the bite that makes the Eagles defensive line what it is, right? Because now you've got Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett, who are doing a nice job rotating in one spot opposite Brandon Graham. Barnett slid over to left defensive end. He was lining up over right tackle, while Josh Sweat stayed over left tackle, and that's going to have to be, I imagine, your starting tandem going forward. And that takes away their ability to rotate those guys. And secondly, we'll have to see what that means for Josh Sweat, Adam, because, prior to this year, they had never played him more than 38% of the snaps. We know about the knee injuries that predate his professional career that have caused the coaches to want to monitor his snaps. Now, they clearly felt better about his health because they gave him an extension and they've been playing him a little bit more than they have in the past. But, now it's for real. Now they're going to have to play him even more so than that.
Yeah, it's a tough deal for Brandon. They're going to have to make a decision on his contract after the season, what they want to do with him, whether they want to bring him back or not. I mean, it's just, you would think they would, but you have to see how he recovers. He got a 2-year extension earlier this year. When was this?
I thought it was an extension or a restructure.
Restructure. Yeah, I have to. We'll talk more about this on Wednesday, whether they can get out of it. But he is the heart and soul of that defense. The two leaders are obvious. Kelce, there are a lot of leaders, but the ultimate leaders are Kelce on offense and Graham on defense.
Yep.
It'll be tough. What a great tweet he had. It's just so wonderful. His tweet that he put out Sunday night, or late Sunday, early Saturday, Sunday evening was awesome. Look, now here it is. As you said, it's Barnett and Sweat. Cargan's their third. Teron Jackson, as was explained to me, is a 5. When I say he's not really a 4, he's going to have to be. They obviously could play Jannard Avery if they have to at defensive end. I mean, they have that Milton Williams. Obviously, they'll have bodies. That's not the issue.
Right.
The issue is there's a major drop off now. Jarek Barnett. I mean, another dumb penalty. It's just ridiculous. It's just,
and he's got a litany of those throughout his career.
Oh,
I don't understand it.
The social media stuff was a little strong, folks. I get your frustration. Just as an observer of the team, I just cannot believe. And what frustrates me more from a football standpoint is like, dude, it has nothing to do with the play. Why did you spear the guy? Right. You have to hit the guy.
It just, if he didn't have kind of a track record of doing it, it might ease the pain of it a little. But the fact that, all right, so this is also something that we're going to have to talk about. He's going to have to play more snaps too. He's a starter now. And this is a guy who has a track record of committing really unnecessary, dumb, late hit type penalties. And now you're a starter. Now you're playing more snaps. You can't be costing your team in critical situations with that. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to go away. It's just because he's had it for years now, and I don't know if they're going to be able to coach it out of him. He's an overly aggressive player like that.
Yes, and I don't understand. He knows better. He's not 20 years old. He's 25 years old. He's on a contract year. What? I could imagine Nick Sirianni, or in this case, Jonathan Gannon, and seeing this. I don't know how. And then they had the other one, which it was on 42. Was it 42 Wallace, right? Kavon Wallace.
It was on Kavon Wallace. Yeah. His helmet leading hit caused the fumble. That's why they had to bring the fumble back. And
and it's unfortunately it is if you lower your head to initiate contact. I remember when I worked at ESPN, I was big on these clarifications when we did NFL Insider Show. I had to be able to talk about it, so I'd have to call Dean Blandino or someone from the league office. And it's textbook. When they change the rule, if you lower your head and initiate contact, it doesn't matter what happens after that. If you do lower it and you make contact, it's a penalty. If it's called, they got to call it.
Here's my only issue with the rule. The rule also says that an offensive player can also be penalized for lowering the crown of his helmet first. And if you watch that play, and I feel like we see this a lot, it's like some double standard where only the defensive players get called for it, but a lot of offensive players go low and lead with their helmet as they incite the contact. And I felt like Trey Sermon was dangerously close to being in that area. He was fairly low himself. So I don't know. It just seems like the offensive player never gets penalized. But there are very many times where the offensive player
rarely
lowers the helmet and to the crown area. So that's a rough one. And yeah, obviously those self-inflicted wounds really hurt the Eagles on that drive. More so the Derek Barnett one, just awful. But that we'll get into that. And so the Brandon Brooks injury was a chest injury, probably a pec, I would imagine.
It's pectoral. Yeah, it's definitely pectoral.
Yeah,
that's the word that I got. It just That's what they think it is now. You and I have been through this thing with the strain. Even if it's a strain, that's what Hargrave had. If it's torn, he's out months, not weeks. And
Yep.
And Dickerson replaced him.
Yep.
And then Davion Taylor again with a calf strain.
Talk about snake bit. I couldn't believe it when I saw that it was a calf. Let's be fair. I'm sure that he was medically cleared, but clearly, this is a case where that calf was just not 100%. Maybe they thought it was, but you remember what I said? This is one of the trickiest. I said this way back when he had it in training camp. One of the trickiest injuries, that and the sports hernia surgery. For whatever reason, the way you recover is different than others, and it's one of the trickiest injuries there is for teams to kind of get through and players to get through. So it was kind of unfortunate there. It's very unfortunate. Who knows how long he'll be out now and how bad it's going to be.
Yeah, by the way, Graham's technically signed through 22 is what I'm looking at right now for the stuff that I have that I saved.
So he signed through
he
this
signed
year and next year.
Yeah, through 22. But I want to know how they can get out. The Eagles, they did it. I got an early look at Sweat's contract. Mm-hmm. Same structure as Mailata. It's got a 2-year structure, but they've got these damn option bonuses. The Eagles are one of the few teams that do this for proration purposes. It's just I don't know. That obviously they found something that works for them. Mm-hmm. But until I get the full breakdown, it's hard for me to comment. But we'll have this on Wednesday for sure, Wednesday morning for sure. But it's just amazing to me. Week 1 they came out pretty much unscathed with injuries. It's just some minor stuff,
right?
And then they lose Graham for the season. He's if you lined up who are the guys they could afford to lose most, he's right. He's top 3 or 4. There's no doubt. Just because it's leadership. It's the stuff that you don't see, the pursuit to the ball, the way he redirects the runner. He's so good at that. He and Sweat in particular. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet. They just blow run plays up. And this will impact their run defense, which is phenomenal, by the way. Boy, were they good on Sunday against the run.
They were.
Completely.
They were. Yeah. Second half, a little bit of struggle. Again, when the second team D-line comes in, when Hassan Ridgeway comes in, when Milton Williams comes in tackle, and they bring a couple different linebackers in. They give up some yardage, and you saw that in the second half. But I was actually, for the most part, impressed. We'll talk about that in a minute. How impeccable is the timing that Landon Dickerson would come back, and this would be his first game, and Brandon Brooks would get hurt, and especially with Jack Driscoll hurt as well, like not even able to go in because he was still on IR. So amazing timing, and we'll see. We'll wait for more information on Brandon Brooks. I'm sure he's going to have to get testing, and we'll see. But
he is. He's definitely getting testing. Yeah, I know it for a fact. We'll see. Yeah, we'll hope. We wish for the best. Good guy, and it's a shame.
Absolutely. All right, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use that promo code ITB to receive $150 in free bets instantly when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code ITB to get $150 in free bets using promo code ITB on the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. And if you want to get an advantage over your sportsbook like DraftKings, just download BetQL, the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers spreads, over-unders, player props. And if you don't want to use the model and rather do the research yourself, they've got all the necessary tools for your betting research needs, from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even the leaderboards to track your success, which I think is pretty cool. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store now. Download BetQL. You can also head to try.betql.co. Try.betql.co to get started now, and you just enter the discount code ITB at the payment checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. All right, check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this fall season using our friends at BetQL. All right, let us talk about the offense. We'll go back to what we said before because it was it was almost like whatever they did well the first game, they were going to try to do some different things second game. Now, of course, you adjust your game plan to the defense. This is a different style of defense that Atlanta played. But you and I heard both the same things as far as people wondering why they would run it inside so much and not attack the edges. You've got Gainwell, you've got Miles Sanders, and why the middle of the field just did not. It was so successful, so profitable for them against Atlanta to be able to move the chains, and just really not there. And that's where I say, Adam, I look forward to trying. Well, I don't know if the all 22 will be out, but at least talking to people who.
We'll get it.
Tape, yeah.
We'll
and wondering what happened there.
Yeah. We'll find out. Yeah, it won't be hard, but. I thought Sanders ran fine. He ran well. Gainwell's clearly the two. Boston Scott's not a part of the team anymore on offense. It's really remarkable. To the point where I'm thinking, okay, Sanders was fine, nothing special, but he did a fine job. Gainwell had his package. Certainly hurry up. He did some of the hurry up stuff. But not having Boston Scott in there, you could have given him something. I mean, they couldn't. They were so inept on offense. Just could you do other than the beautiful pass from Hurts to Watkins, was an unbelievable play. I mean, talk about timing and what a great job by Hurts to Watkins.
Yep.
I mean, they just couldn't get anything done. It was they were so stale, and it just seemed like Sirianni had no answer to defeat what Ryans was trying to do. And the thing that the one source said to me, that he just didn't understand if they're playing too high, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said when you do that, there's room in the middle. There has to be, but he had not seen the coaching tape yet.
Right.
But this guy played in the league, so this was his opinion.
Right.
And he just goes, this can happen. He goes, not in an NFL game. In today's NFL, he goes, offenses have such an advantage over the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Something ain't right, and we will get to the bottom of it.
What really shocked us both, because we talked about it, was, as you mentioned, there were times they played too high. There are times they just played that Seattle kind of cover 3 look with one safety deep, and it felt like that's a good opportunity to either do the 4 verts or to run some deep crossers or deep posts.
Yeah.
It seemed like every time they wanted to go deep, it was a fly route. There was just nothing. No breaking type routes, and you've got some guys who have good. Yeah, you've got guys who've got good break moves, so good releases. It just seemed very oddly stale. I even joked on Twitter after the Philly special play that they tried.
Yeah,
I joked on Twitter. This is a tough day for Doug Peterson, because the offense looked overly vertical without much of another element, and then of course the Philly special didn't work.
It was just one of these games. Now, here's the other question. Okay, now to take a little heat off of Sirianni, did the receivers not get open? I need to find out.
I want to see the tape. That's what I really need to know.
But you and I ran what we thought with some people we know that are pretty sharp, and you and I seem to have similar information. Mm-hmm. Just more, they did run zone read. They did run some RPOs, but zone read was in there. Very few, if zero inside throws, lack of creativity. This is from some of my sources. Offensive line struggled mightily at times to get a push. Mm-hmm. Very little successful outside. They won every now and then they won, but it was sort of infrequent. Look, they only scored 11 points. And as you said earlier here, how the hell after a 91-yard pass do you not get a touchdown there? And as you said, to complete this, how do you not even get 3? It's just
amazing. So it's weird. I was looking at the stats after the game. Sometimes things don't hit you until you see the statistical breakdown. And Hurts was 12 of 23 for 190. And as you just mentioned, 91 of those yards came on one pass. So that means
99 other than that.
That's almost hard to believe. So, but I didn't, 12 of 23, 52%. I did not think he was specifically inaccurate while watching him play. I think that, he underthrew Devontae Smith at the end of the first possession, and that was tough because that was leaving points on the board. It looked like Smith had was it Norman or somebody else beat by a step, and the ball was
Norman
thrown.
I thought it was Norman.
It was either Norman or the other guy, Diamador. What's his
Lenore.
name? Lenore. Yeah. Either way, but for the most part, if you look at who he was throwing to, he was he had 2 completions to Devontae Smith on 7 targets and 2 to Rager on 5. That's really, he just had trouble with getting these guys deep, and they were I would say, a hair off on a few of them. I didn't think he was like wildly inaccurate or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Rager got leverage for the touchdown. He got it was clearly illegal touching. That's the rule. They called it right.
Yep.
You know, I like that he fought for it and, you know, had a touchdown that was not going to count, but it's just they just didn't win enough. Now, again, we don't know because we don't have access to the tape right now exactly why they didn't win enough. Was it the quarterback? Was it the receivers? The protection was kind of inconsistent. It wasn't one of their best days. Where week one, for the most part, they were terrific. But look, the defense kind of saved the day in terms of they kept them in the game. They had a here and now that every once in a while they Samuel made some beautiful catches. Got to give it up to him. They completely shut down Elijah Mitchell, who's to me not a starting running back. He's more of a changeup, but he fits the Raheem Mostert role. The like the explosive.
He's a one-cut guy, definitely.
Right. To me, Sermon, who had a beautiful cut on the 8-yard play, unfortunately he got hit and fumbled it. And Hasty's herky-jerky physical, Jermichael Hasty, who had the 21-yard run, a couple nice plays, some catches. Yeah. But hey, they shut down George Kittle. Kittle was not a factor.
He was not a factor, and yet he still caught 4 passes on 4 targets. So going back to last year, he's now 19 for 19, which is like that's mind-boggling. Go find that in the NFL history books where a guy has caught every single pass thrown to him against the same team, minimum 10 targets.
I'll say this about the defense. The coaching is so good by Gannon and his Denard Wilson is kind of what I'd heard. The Jets were not happy that he didn't come back. They wanted to keep him on the new staff. They lost him to the Eagles. Their coaches have done a really good job on defense so far. The game plan's been good. They're executing as well as they possibly can. They're not the most talented team at linebacker, at safety, but you know what? When you give guys a plan that they can handle, you're not asking them to do more than they're capable of. You have a chance to execute. The defense kept them in the game. The offense let them down. Let's call it like it is.
Were you surprised in the second half, as I was, that it did feel like this Niners defensive line got up into the pads of the Eagles offensive line and pushed them back into the QB pretty not pretty often, but especially on third downs, like, third and longs and third and shorts. Oh, by the way, third and shorts. What I mean, there were 3 third and there was a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 2, and a 3rd and 4 that they didn't convert. Like, come on. That goes back to the play call we were saying, the middle of the field. But, obviously at the goal line before in the second quarter, you're trying to be cute. I thought that was an opportunity to run the ball. You had run the ball pretty well earlier in the game. I feel like they outsmarted themselves there. It was just,
And, Jordan Howard's not on the roster. You can't. The teams don't use goal line backs for the most part anymore. That went out years ago. You can't just bring him up to be a goal line guy. You would like to get him if he's going to be up, 10 to 12 carries, maybe 8 to 10. We'll see if they ever bring him up, but it's the Gainwell and Sanders show and Hurts. Oh, the one thing I would add before we get to defense is that I think some of them, he broke the pocket a little bit too soon. Some he hung in there, and either they weren't getting open or he wasn't seeing it. I don't know. I don't have the answers for that yet. But what was good, it was in our notebook for our pregame, is that they were worried about 2 things. One of them we really haven't heard much in the last couple of years, but we're going to hear it going forward. The Niners were really concerned about the Eagles' speed at receiver. Watkins beat them, as we saw. And they were worried or concerned about Hurts on the run because we know he's a dual threat quarterback, and they were really concerned about that. He did have the run. He was 10 for 82 on the ground. He's not this super fast guy, but he's well built, and he runs with good vision, and he did get them on some runs. But again, they only scored 11 points. They did have a 2-point conversion with Gainwell, who is a factor.
Yeah, that was a nice little drive there. It looked like the 49ers played soft and were perfectly content to let Jalen Hurts run around and take time off the clock. I don't know that they were trying to give up a touchdown that quickly, but they knew even if they did give up a touchdown, that they could end the game with a first down, or if they had to kick it back to the Eagles, then the Eagles had to go score again. So they had that advantage to them. Look, as we tie it up here with offense, it's just like I tell you, Adam. I told you last week. You don't recalibrate after week 1. The same thing after week 2. So they had a really good game week 1. Everything went right. They struggled week 2. They got an extra day to prepare because they're going to play Monday night in Dallas. It's going to be a huge game. It's going to be the first Sirianni experiment, and actually Jalen Hurts as a starter, right? Experience facing the Cowboys and Cowboys week and everything like that. So there'll be a lot of pomp and circumstance comes with it, and we'll just have to see how they perform. They got an A for week 1 and maybe a D for week 2 offensively, but it's 17 weeks. C minus. 11 points in the NFL is pretty bad.
I don't. I just
come on, man. I thought I was being nice.
How about a D plus? Can we give him a D plus?
You don't give pluses and minuses when D in my school.
I didn't know that. I didn't know we were grading.
It was just A, B, C, plus or minus, and then either D or F.
All right, I'll give him a D plus.
If it makes you feel better,
I'll give him a 1.5 on offense.
D plus. Do you think they hang that on the refrigerator?
Yeah, 1.3. Actually, wasn't it D plus 1.3?
I don't know. Do you remember Tommy Boy when he sees it get at the beginning of the movie? He's like a D, and everybody thinks he's upset. He goes, "I passed."
And it's true. Well, a D was 1 if I remember on the point scale. Anyway.
Either way, the point I'm making is we're 2 weeks into a 17-week test for Jalen Hurts, for Nick Sirianni, for how this team comes together. So I wouldn't be too down in the dumps about it, just like I wouldn't have told anybody to go book your Super Bowl ticket after last week.
I mean, Washington is 101. The Giants are 0-2. Dallas is 101. The Eagles are 101. Here we are. We're in the NFC least once again.
And by the way, perfect example of narratives just getting crushed, right? Dallas after week 1. Yeah, all the Eagles fans, oh yeah, their defense is awful, just like we said it was. And then they go on the road, hold the Chargers, who have a good offense, down to what, 14 points? It was
17. Yeah, they forced 2 turnovers.
Right.
Stephon Diggs' brother, Trayvon, played really well. Now some were self-inflicted by Herbert, who had 2 picks, but no, hey, 17 points on the road. That's a hell of a job. Yeah, it's
right. And then look at the Thursday night game. Washington and New York. Everybody says, well, their defenses are good, but their offenses suck. Well, it was a 32-29 game, or something like that. 31-29.
Yet another example of that Dallas game is they're on the road. They got all sorts of injuries. DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be out a couple months. They got no pass rushers. They found a way to win with a short deck. That's a pretty good job by Dan Quinn. DQ doing an excellent job. And Tony Pollard was amazing. What a find. Yet another Memphis running back. Man, they
Micah Parsons playing an edge rusher now instead of a linebacker.
Yeah.
Strictly an edge rusher in that game. Interesting.
Yeah. Michael Parsons is a player. He had a sack in that game. So this is going to be a fun game. Monday night. I cannot wait for that.
Yes. It's going to be awesome. All right, let's head over to the defense and talk about what we saw there. First, I'll remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia's sports teams. That's right, for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. Check them out at phlsportsnation.com or on Twitter at phlsportsnation. And we'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you do head into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get a great deal. Or just go to that website, skymotorcars.com. All right, let's talk about the defense, man. So here's something I thought was really. I wrote this in my observation story on InsideTheBirds.com. Here's what I love about the NFL: nanoseconds decide sometimes whether a play could be a huge play or just nothing at all. And what I mean by that is Jimmy Garoppolo's first 6 or 7 passes were basically incompletions. I mean, he threw 2 of the worst screen passes you'll ever see behind one guy at Debo's ankles and then over the running back's head. Then he had a couple of sideline routes early on that, he was throwing over people's heads, right? Well, why was he doing that? Because the Eagles, they were so close to sacking him. But there's one thing that I thought about with that. I'm like, the Eagles are doing a great job getting pressure on this guy and forcing some of the worst throws you're going to see. But they didn't sack him. And I thought, that's really interesting. And these receivers that he's throwing to, he's missing them, but they're open, which tells me that if they're able to make some adjustments and block a few things up, they are going to be able to move the ball. Lo and behold, Brandon Graham goes out with an injury. They make a few adjustments, start running the ball better, a little bit better down in distances. And Adam, it's not like he completed a bunch of passes, but third down, there was one that Brandon Ayuk caught at his fingertips that was so
a great
big.
catch.
Debo caught one over the middle. As soon as he just had a nanosecond more to throw the ball, good things happen for the 49ers. And it's just amazing how just that little bit changes the entire dynamic of a game.
Yeah, no doubt. After the first quarter, I felt for sure the Eagles would win this game. The fact that they do not have a turnover force through 2 games is a minor surprise to me. First quarter pressure was good. It started to evaporate. It wasn't like they didn't get pressure after that, but the big pressure came in the first couple series. They had it fairly blocked up well, but the defense still did a good enough job to keep the team in the game. They really did. You can't put it on the defense here. They've played 2 good games. First game they were exceptional. This past Sunday they played well, not great, but they played well, good enough again to keep in the game. The big thing was they did not get gashed in the run game. That's why the game was close. Mitchell could not break off big. He had 1 10-yard run.
Right.
Hasty was a good change up to Mitchell's
speed.
On the 21-yarder, but got to give it up. They did a great job. They had him scouted really well. The inside zone stuff, the outside zone stuff. It's all about cutbacks with the Niners. The pass game with Debo, they gave some plays up. The 40-yarder, they got hit a little bit, but here's the thing: the only touchdown they got was to, of all people, Juwan Jennings.
I got to admit, I had to go to the old book and say, who is Juwan Jennings?
I barely knew who the guy was. Juszczyk, they tried. Yeah. He just had him scattered pretty well. Sherfield was a non-factor. Ayuk had the big first down, but that was the only catch he had. He missed Mohamed Sanu, I think, for a touchdown. Not Garoppolo, but overall, you got to feel pretty good about this defense. Again, if coaching is superior, you don't have to be uber talented. You just have to give these guys things that they can handle, assignments they can handle, and that's what coaching is. And Gannon and his group have done a great job. That's why they've been better defensively than probably most of us thought, or they would be.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to looking at the tape to see why they didn't try to, at least in my opinion, it looked like they didn't try to challenge the linebackers in the passing game. Got specifically Jannard Avery and TJ Edwards.
Yeah.
When go heavy up front, because they did come out in a lot of 2 tight end or tight end fullback packages to put the Eagles base defense on the field. But just me kind of spitballing here, it did seem like Kyle Shanahan understood that he was very undermanned and he was just trying to get out of there with a win, and he was going to grind out that run and just hope to be efficient on third down. I mean, obviously his goal was to get Jimmy to get the ball in the hands of Debo, which they did a good job of, especially in the second half. I mean, he had 8 targets, 6 catches, 93 yards. He had 2 runs for 8 yards. It's not like Debo had an enormous day, but when you look at what they were doing, they were just trying to run the ball as much as they could and then get the ball in the hands of Debo and get out of there with a win, which is what they did. But I think if they were a little bit more, if they had Mosher, if they had, more of a healthy offense, even some of their other backup running backs who played last year,
Jeff Wilson,
I feel like they may have tried to challenge them a little bit more across the field against those guys, but they just didn't.
Yeah, look, the thing is, though, the Eagles' defense had something to do with it. They had them scouted. They gave up some crossers because this is what the Niners do. The Niners kill the Lions on crossers. Last week, it seemed like Samuel had 50 of them against the Lions. He just couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
They did a reasonable job against Samuel. I mean, he definitely had some plays, but he didn't get 150 yards. He had 93. I just thought that the pro staff obviously did a good job, the scouting staff, of giving them what they think this offense is, the Niners offense is, and the coaches, the defensive coaches did a good job. It's just, hey, it's one of those games. Look, they didn't play well enough offensively. They know it. Right. We'll see how well they rebound. They're going to have to expand the passing game. I mean, they did not have the thing about the Eagles passing game, other than the Watkins catch for 91 yards. No Eagles receiver caught a pass for farther than 11 yards. That's just absurd.
That is pretty crazy.
Cannot happen. And that, and where's the in-breakers? Where were the in-breakers? Boy, Samuel got his in-breakers. He got a couple.
He did. I think that's going to be the great mystery of. Do you think? If you're just watching the routes that wide receivers have run the first 2 weeks, they've used Devontae on the sidelines, they've used Jalen Reagor on the sidelines, Watkins in either the screen or the vertical deep vertical. Do you think they're kind of missing that, what they wanted out of Travis Fulgham, just like kind of a bigger possession receiver that you can just get the ball to in a variety of ways?
100%. You nailed it. They need, of course, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who my Niners guy said to me, blocked his ass off in the first week. I think he said 19 was really good in the run game. Well, what they need is 19 in the pass game as a physical pass target like Fulgham was last year, where he was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. That when Fulgham did what he's supposed to do, that he brought them another dimension to their pass game, particularly over the middle. He had catches over the middle.
Do you remember when people would just get so frustrated with Chip Kelly because they would wonder why Riley Cooper was out there, and Chip would say, because of his perimeter blocking, when the truth is they probably just didn't have, because Chip got rid of everybody. They didn't have anybody better.
When Riley lost, like when he lost his ability, to be a decent player, he shouldn't have been out there.
Right.
But
that's what the J-Jaw thing feels like.
Right.
People roll their eyes. You're a second-round pick, and the best thing you do is block.
It would be acceptable as a 6th-round pick. It's not acceptable for a 2nd-round pick that he's not catching the football, but they missed that possession pass target in the worst way. You're absolutely right. Very good point.
I do feel, and you made a great point, that through 2 weeks here, the Eagles they have no turnovers. Is that, or no takeaways?
No turnovers forced. Yeah.
That's that. And Darius Slay, was it, who jumped a pass? He had an opportunity to pick one off, and it wound up being a pass breakup, but he didn't, secure the interception. I feel like if the Eagles had one turnover in this game, and they almost had one on the Sturman thing, but obviously that caused it. But they probably, their chances of at least tying or winning this game would have been a lot better. But 2 games now, no turnovers. That's obviously going to have to change if they're going to want to, win some games here, especially as the calendar turns, as we like to say.
Yes.
So, all right, that's that's pretty much it. That's the defense. That's the offense.
We covered it. It's just, they doing a post game, just reaction, what your early thoughts were. So we had a little time on late Sunday afternoon, early evening, because the Eagles played a 1 o'clock game. So I just checked in with some people who I, really trust, to know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I know you did as well. And we just kind of just filtered out some stuff. There were a couple of people who were a little bit harsh on Sirianni. I thought I was a little bit strong. The words that we got where he was trying to do too much. A Niner source said to me that they actually liked the Eagles' offense in week 1 against Atlanta. It was very college-like, with pop passes and
RPOs,
11 versus 12, wide splits.
Yep.
Getting out of the quarterback's hands quickly, read option, zone read. They did some of that this game, but the Niners had them scouted really, really well. I got to give them credit. You always try to give people credit when they've done a good job. It's the Niners did a hell of a job considering how short-handed they were too.
That was my point at the top of the show. I know nobody likes to hear that, but I was really impressed with their poise and ability to hang in there after a rough start, 2 weeks in a row on the road and never going home in between. But look, I look forward to Wednesday's pod because we're going to have a lot of information. We really need to see the tape to get some answers or on what happened there in the passing game, what they were trying to accomplish, why they didn't accomplish it. We will have all of that on Wednesday at 6 a.m. in the next edition of Inside the Birds. That'll do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads. He's got a website called broadsmedia.com. And you can find him screaming and ranting about things on Twitter at Broads81. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.